If you watch any of my streams, you know that this PNG is usually something I reserve mostly for streams only. However, we have reached a kind of important milestone with the channel, as I have officially reached the 1,000 subscriber mark on this channel. Fortunately, I'm going to get a screenshot of a flat-out 100, but at the same time, I can live with it. On that note, there was a video that Aztecross Gaming posted that I wanted to a review, kind of. It essentially evolved into a react, where I will, of course, put my input towards the topic of have streamers ruined Destiny 2? I do have opinions on that, but it will come more down the line, so I'm just going to let this play and, of course, react as it comes.
Bro, people complain about everything. Dude, I'm not gonna lie, man. This morning, I got told on a video where we were essentially critiquing Bungie very hard on yesterday's video.
That is a good video, by the way. I would recommend 100% watching it if you were looking for honest thoughts about Destiny, because that is a genuinely good video. I would recommend anyone who's iffy about Bungie and Destiny, yeah, I would watch that. It might give you some reinforcement or vindication in a way.
And essentially my thoughts on Bungie going forward. And dude, you know, the amount of comments that range from it's content creators for hating on Bungie too much to you didn't hate enough. The back and forth on this, guys, I can't keep up with y'all. I can't keep up with y'all.
It is a real issue, because my own video that I just put out Monday or Tuesday, it was one of the 2 days, it's of back and forth of that very much same thing. If there's something that talks about in a polarizing topic regarding Destiny and Bungie, there's either, oh my god, get over it, or oh my god, Bungie sucks.
Exactly how the developers feel. Are you saying that you feel like we go back and forth with the developers too much? Is that what you're saying right now? 100,000%. Okay, give me something specifically that you feel like we go back and forth with the developers too much on. Vault space? I've never gone back on vault. What are you talking about? I've always looked at anyone.
We always need more. We always need more vault space.
That's a non-debate, dude. Come on. Give me,
every new expansion, we keep something.
Hold on, I'm about to segue into this bitch. Do you think content creators have negatively impacted Destiny? Let me get a poll on this. No, just Aztecross.
Rip the homie.
Yes. Have content creators hurt Destiny 2? Oh, wow. I love this. It's so spicy, baby. 59% say yes. 41 to 42% say no.
Now, I'm not going to lie. When I saw that poll result, I was surprised. I figured there might have been more people agreeing because of the just general meme of Salt Grepo and, of course, him ruining Divinity and the variety of memes in that fact. And I'll develop more on this later.
Everybody partake in this vote, please. Everyone, even on the folks on the YouTube side, let your voice be heard. We want to hear it right now. Have content creators heard Destiny 2? I'm going to fan the flames just a little bit, but this was actually a comment right here that was left on our video that we did. I was simply just gauging, like, Destiny 2 players, how you feeling? But right here, the worst thing Bungie has ever done is talking to YouTubers like Aztecross. People who literally play this game for a living for feedback, who do not represent the community. Now listen, even though I might be being a little extra right now, a little over the top, I do have to sit back and reflect. Do my own desires align with yours? I don't know. I think a good game is a good game, but it's a fair point. Hence why many of you just voted right now that content creators have in fact hurt Destiny 2.
Which, to insert on that as well, it is the difference between feedback. Of course, there is a general consensus, like when there was 99% of Destiny players that hated the initial Rite of the Nine release schedule. That is something that the Bungie can say was genuine community feedback as a whole. But when there is the closed door talks where you have Datto, Aztecross, Fallout, Rothwaffles, when you have all of the variety streamers who have all of their own opinions, but they bring them for development, that is not the same as, let's just say, Bungie randomly selected 20,000 Destiny players and said, we would like your feedback directly, and they listened directly to them. Maybe 20 or so different creators in a behind closed door, this needs to happen, is not the same as if they did a Steve Harvey, we asked 100 people, because that does not translate to the same sort of thing.
Dude, the poll is closed. 53% say yes, content creators have heard Destiny. Now here's the thing, Gonzo, at some point, hopefully we can have him on and have this discussion. What was my reply on this? So right here, I said no shame directed at this guy. Actually, I would love to have him on for a discussion. This is a week ago. Things have, I don't know, Luke, I hope you got a hold of this guy and we can have a discussion. But I do want to take this moment because this is a common thing that you guys have brought up in here, that creators have heard Destiny. But again,
in many different ways, and honestly many variety ways.
Do you think content creators are the only ones present at these summits / meetings. Can I get a poll on this? That's good, man. 69% are saying no. 31% say yes. Okay. So here's the thing. As someone who has been a part of many summits, meetings with Bungie, and by the way, this is not something that's just with Bungie. Other developers do this all the time. You know, give you an example. Arc Raiders did the exact same thing throughout their playtests and leading up to their most recent alpha. So it's not uncommon for developers to bring people in from their communities and have a discussion with them to collect feedback.
The thing is, though, in terms of this, a lot of times the person with the verified check mark would 100% be checked, but then even if 1,000 different comments were saying the same thing, if they're all replies, random people, they would most likely be skimmed over, as opposed to, like I said, the ones with check marks being checked because they are the person who is popular. They are the influencer. You know, that tragic word.
Born was another one that did it too. But anyways, over the years, this is just what developers do. They like to take people that have played their game for an extensive amount of time and then bring them in and have a discussion with them. Bungie is also a developer that does that exact same thing. Now, interestingly for Bungie is they'll bring people in that aren't just content creators, that aren't just streamers and YouTubers. They'll bring people in that are just gamers. You know, I have straight up seen people on Twitter or people on Reddit, like straight up just like a Redditor, someone who is very active on Destiny 2 Reddit or wherever, get brought in and given feedback. On top of that, you also have a number of journalist outlets from all across the board that also get brought in.
See, here's the thing. Journalism, it's a rough way to put it, because as I firmly believe, according to the Unsubscribed podcast and the folks on there is plenty of journalists nowadays that would just want to sell clicks. So they often do put the rage bait titles out. It's very rare to see nowadays with journalism, period, who is actually accurate. So unfortunately, games journalists, I wouldn't think exactly is a trustful source, but also notice, as much as, yes, they are doing what I say, they're bringing people, it's not a mass poll, though. Like he said, like Aztecross says here, it's supposedly the one guy from Reddit or the one guy from a Twitter community that may have had a good point that brought him in, but that is just the one guy. You genuinely need a mass opinion to actually get any sort of real vibe from it.
Normally, journalists don't get brought in until the release of something is coming up. Direct feedback is only pulled from folks that are actively playing their games. The journalist is more or less brought in, just essentially just show them what's coming, and that way there's...
Also, you can't trust journalists when it comes to review on games, because you know, have no idea how many journalists come into a scene, play a game that they never would play normally, played on the lowest difficulty, and maybe they don't finish the game because they end up in a time crunch. There's several reasons why you should never listen to a games journalist review of a game and use that as your divining rod for whether or not you should play or buy a game. Because oftentimes, the journalist review, not exactly the one you can trust.
Coverage on that. So listen, when you have a bunch of people in a summit, there are different ideas. Dude, no one is really aligned on everything. For instance, years ago when sunsetting was brought up, let me just say there were some creators in there and some YouTubers and streamers that said, that sounds fine. And it was really the people that were like...
I won't lie, initially I said sunsetting sounds fine. Initially. Because I thought sandbox shakeups is good, but also, unfortunately down the line, removing content, not great. Obviously, shifting up the sandbox is always welcome. They do it constantly. You know, when rocket launchers sucked and linear fusion rifles were the best. That sort of shakeup. That is the thing I was looking forward to with sunsetting, is shaking up sandboxes, not removing half of the game and never restoring it.
Like, I guess folks that may have played more Diablo or something like that, you know what I mean? I wasn't used to seasonal resets, so it was new for me. I didn't like sunsetting, primarily because I didn't want to say goodbye to Not Forgotten and Luna's House. So I was extremely biased.
Crutch. No, I'm just playing.
On where I stood with sunsetting. It's the reason why my vault to this day is absolutely slammed. I like keeping my shit. It's a looter shooter. I want to keep my loot. And so I didn't really like sunset.
Well, with Aztecross on that, my vault has maybe another 50 on top of that. A good half of that is loot that I haven't touched in maybe years, because it is legitimately stuff for Forsaken that I just remember quite fondly. I still remember, actually, in this spot right here where he's got that left dead man's tail, right there in my vault is a parcel of Stardust that I used in a clip that I forget if I posted or not, but it's somewhere around, where it was a 7th column that I legitly earned in Crucible. And keep in mind, if you know me, I'm good enough for Crucible, but I can't stand it. So me getting a 7th column in Crucible fucking spectacular.
Setting, not even from the standpoint of just losing planets and losing content. I mean from the standpoint of just losing my favorite weapons. But there were also the technical limitations that Bungie disclosed that they were faced with. Anyways, there's reasons why there was sunsetting. And whether we all stood there and said, no, we don't want sunsetting, at the end of the day, Bungie was still going to sunset.
On the topic of technical limitations, this was something I was actually discussing in the comments of one of my videos a fair few times. There is the idea that I presented that hindsight sounds like the best move they could have done, and that's essentially doing what Overwatch 2 was supposed to do, where it was going to be a copy-paste of the original stuff. Everything you had, cosmetics and all that, granted Destiny is a very different space compared to Overwatch, you know, cosmetic simulator. Regardless, it was going to be essentially, the theory was Destiny 3, air quotes, should have really been Destiny 2 Part 2. Where it will be a translocation onto a new foundation of a better engine and better general software write-up, because that was one of the main reasons they cited the sunsetting is technical limitations. If they had actually worked on Destiny 3, or like I said, Destiny 2 Part 2, that would have been the ex machina in that sort of, I don't know if I'm using that phrase right, but that would have been the way out of the excuse for technical limitations. Because then no longer the technical limitations are there, and you might be able to develop on better systems.
I'll just say that I felt like,
of course, hindsight, armchair general sort of things, but, you know, ideas.
Like there was someone at Bungie who was in leadership position who, at least in my eyes, felt like was leading the charge on sunsetting. Now, maybe he was just the face of it. Regardless, that's what happened there. Now, let's fast forward to another topic that has taken place before, and that is the topic of crafting versus RNG drops. When you talk to just about anybody that has played Destiny, or especially like extensively played Destiny, I'm talking like hardcore people, PvE
I am pro crafting before this continues. I am for it.
players especially, they think that crafting has ruined Destiny. It ruined what the magic of Destiny was. I think CB Gray is a fantastic Destiny player. The fact that he has gone back and regrinded all of Destiny 1 exotics, please check out that video.
I do want to do that sometime soon. I heard about the Vanguard project, which is like a Destiny 1 PC port. That comes out, I might actually just do that 100% instead of current Destiny 2.
Such a good video, and it also like recaptures what the magic was of getting drops inside of Destiny 1 versus getting drops inside of Destiny 2. I personally liked weapon crafting. I also feel like weapon crafting could have been expanded upon, almost taking a page out of Path of Exile's book and introducing things like corruption orbs.
Now, there was another comment on one of my videos. I'll post it right here if I can remember. Of course, props to the person who suggested it. Crafting, I don't think killed Destiny or the loot grind, because obviously there was hunting the 5 out of 5, and in case of raids, you had 6 5 out of 5s. You need 30 specific drops. Sure, before too long, it was easy to get 2 per week guaranteed on a character or something like that, and with every single drop source, there was another try. And so in raids like Salvation's Edge, where you have 5 drop sources plus X amount of secret chests, before too long, that math adds up, and for all you know, you might be able to get all 5 out of 5, all rolls in the first, 3 weeks. Say you're the luckiest guy on Earth. The problem is that adept weapons still existed, and they were supposed to be the leg up, because there was something else that was there. And henceforth, the commenter said, there should have been crafting for practically everything. The only things that shouldn't have been craftable was adept drops, because in the end, adept drops were more worth it than just double enhance in the end. Now, granted, this is after they allowed adepts to be enhanced, of course, mind you.
Val orbs, and finding a way to make RNG a part of weapon crafting still. It's still deterministic, but there's a way to further personalize your own weapon. But again, that's not happening, as you've seen with tier.
Also, it's a bit of a distant memory with Destiny 1, but I don't remember god roll grinding nearly as much in Destiny 1. I don't think they made so much of the difference. Obviously, things like Firefly, explosive payload, some of the good things, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a solid perk. But I wouldn't look at something and say, oh, that's a trash roll, immediate dismantle. And in the end, I had the weapons I liked, and I honestly kept them. I think I just ended up running raid weapons mostly, because those were far more static in the regular. So random rolls, I don't even remember that being that much of an issue come Destiny 1, but that is mainly a Destiny 2 thing, the idea of the god roll in the end.
5 loots. Bungie is returning to form on how they want to roll out weapon drops inside of Destiny. Crafting is a chore. Some people see...
A little bit. A little bit.
Some people look at that differently. Some people think
crafting was absolutely a chore before they introduced the skip. As soon as you were able to put in a little bit of a glimmer and legendary shards, or what even, I think it was just enhancement cores, as soon as you could skip weapon leveling, the aspect of chore or a grind for weapon leveling disappeared. Because as soon as you got the weapon, you could max it out, get your double enhanced perks, put on everything you wanted, and your special memento you probably already had ready. Boom, you don't even need to do anything more with the gun. It's just farming kill counts then.
Crafting is great because no matter what, they could get a couple, 1, 2, maybe 3 red borders, and they're in the process of achieving the craftable role. I like crafting simply because it allowed me to keep just about everything in the game. Weapon crafting said, hey, you don't have to keep 5, 6 rolls of a single weapon. And some of you that only play PvE, this may not be a problem for you, but for those of us that like to play both PvE and PvP, we like to keep multiple rolls. And even if you just play just one or the other,
I'm not gonna lie, he does have a good point there about the PvP versus PvE. I know it's obvious the slide shot quick draw roll is useless in PvE officially, but at the same time, I usually would keep the 2 versions. If I saw one roll that was good for Crucible, I would keep that one, and then I would keep the other roll that would be my go-to roll at the time. Thinking back to Forsaken, everything was Outlaw Rampage, so almost everything had that, because that was like the roll that I wanted. But 100%, if there was a Crucible roll that you saw, you would keep that version for Crucible. But outside of that, you only really had one weapon. It's kind of like talking about Borderlands recently, how 90% of actual players, or maybe 90% is broad, but more players than you think actually only played one character, even though there was almost always at least 4 classes to play with.
I still like to keep multiple roles. And so, long story short, weapon crafting did solve a lot of the vault problems, but it definitely was not perfect when it first rolled out. But I also wish that it could have been expanded upon. Now, whether I wanted that or not, that's obviously not the path that Bungie is going with. And as you see with like tier 3, tier 4, and tier 5 loot, we are definitely going back to RNG.
And on that note, yes, tier 5 loot is something to strive for. There's lots of bonuses. The problem is if, let's say, perfect example, we had a weapon that had 9 different perks in each different column. In that case, there's only a 30% chance that every one you got had all of the perks you needed. So theoretically, because a tier 5 has 3 perks one column, 3 perks in another, unless it had like 20 perks to roll in each column, it's not going to be too long before you can get one of everything you got, because you got 3 chances to get every single perk you want. Especially if you are simple enough and you only have 1 perk you really do like. Hell, you might get the Crucible version and the PvE version on the same roll. The idea that tier 5 is replacing the God roll grind, not at all. It's honestly probably going to make it easier, aside from crafting. Because crafting, you needed the red border. You were limited in some cases on some of those drops. These tier 5s, it's pretty much just going to be how many times you can beat an activity that drops a tier 5 that will limit it.
Drops. Bro does not need that many ergo sums. Here's the thing. None of these are dupes. These are all different roles
that is also the issue. When you have something like that, where you can duplicate 1,000 things and they are all different. Different blades, different main perks, different damages. We honestly didn't need that for ergo. Like, I know some of them could get different elements for the same perk. I think some perks could have been tied to one specific element, because otherwise we have vaults like this, where there's 30 ergo sums.
I may lean into at some point down the road. And this is how I like to play the game. Everybody always comes in here, and it really irks me, man, because you come in here and you're like, you don't need 700 slots. F you. I've only seen you use 1 ergo sum. Mods ban less. Let's get the fuck out of my stream.
Jeez. I mean, in the end, 100% though, that is what ends up happening. The only ergo sum I know I used was when it came to the boss fight in Salvation's Edge, whatever the Taken Captain's called. Yeah, I was the guy who most ended the time using Wolfpack rounds on the sword. I usually was the guy. I didn't use much of the other ones. I messed around with them when I got them, but in the end, they stayed in the vault mostly.
We'll have a mature dialogue with all of you until you start talking shit about my vault. You, I'm keeping everything. This is how I play the game. You less. I'll see you in Edge of Fate.
Also, agree with that. The vault is going to stay the same. Dado, and no one can stop me from having a vault the way I like it.
Now back to the point I was saying. When you have multiple people across the community, and this involves streamers, YouTubers, journalists, random Redditors, people on Twitter, people on Bungie forums. I've seen people on Bungie forums literally get into summits for Bungie, which is completely fine. You've got many people from all over the community that come together, and there are differing opinions across the board. But then there's the one major opinion, and it's Bungie's opinion. At the end of the day, Bungie's gonna do what they want to do. There's always some slight wiggle room, but the way development cycles work is by the time I see it or anyone else in the community sees something, there's only so much Bungie can do from that point until release. There is always a little bit of wiggle room to change and tweak some stuff, but
which indeed in the end, development can be static.
That's what's going. So if you don't like what you see fundamentally, too damn bad. That's it. That's what's going to be happening. And at the end of the day, Bungie, you know, I'm not saying that Bungie is unyielding, but for instance, how many of you are excited about Kepler and the new...
Personally, not at all.
Things and the Matter Ball stuff. Let's just play a game here. Let's run a simulation. You go to Bungie or any developer, let's just say any developer, and they show you something, but they don't show you the whole thing. They just show you a piece of it because...
That is something else I know I've mentioned about Destiny. They got too dependent on holding things from the public. I made a video titled essentially, "We Need Info, Not Codenames." This was back before Edge of Fate was revealed, and everything was Codename Frontiers, Codename Apollo, Codename bleh. That wasn't helping them at all. We needed some sort of info to keep we needed coal for the fire, to keep the steam engine running, if that makes sense. But also in that idea of Bungie, now, I don't know if he's actually going to elaborate this, but I'm going to get my point out before it gets too late in the video. The idea of streamers as a whole ruining Destiny, I don't think it's just at the behest of streamers and the clinically online, but also partially, in more specifics, those like Esoteric, the speedrunner community, and other, I want to say like the challenge raider community, because they kind of showed what was capable of a Destiny streamer or a Destiny player in extreme cases. There are plenty of non-streamer folks that do nothing but trio, duo, and solo raids purely for that credit on Raid Report that says you trioed it. At one point, I trioed Root of Nightmares because I thought it sounded cool. I didn't even know Raid Report would track that you trioed it, at least I think. But at the same time, I remember I did it. I trioed Root of Nightmares using nothing but Sweet Business and an adept, what's it called? Hothead. Sweet Business at a Hothead and like a Found Verdict. A very not very meta loadout for trioing a raid. Granted, Root of Nightmares is, you know, mid-raid for challenge, but regardless. In the end, I feel like the people like Esoteric that proved that an activity that was meant for 3 through 6 people could be done by one person on the regular, then improved how Bungie looked at some... I wouldn't say improved. It escalated how Bungie looked at some things. It's why Ghosts of the Deep, the final boss, has so much freaking health compared to what health they should have, being what they are. And the fact that when you're soloing some of these dungeon bosses, if you don't have the mega cracked loadout, you're going to be doing the rounds many, many, many times. I still remember when I made an attempt at Warlord's Ruin, I maybe did the rotation of the Ogre like 12 times, even doing my best to be meta and optimal, and it still was like 13 rounds, and I was losing steam until I got hit by a Taken Ogre Blast. Suddenly there wasn't a wall, next to know I'm over the edge, and gone, solo, flawless, gone, bye, I was done. Regardless, I do think a good portion of the kind of challenge community that does try to push the limits of what anyone is capable of is also a part of what ruined Destiny. Because, you know, you could say the meme all the time, Salt Greppo said that Divinity was too powerful, so he got it nerfed. That is in a tune also responsibility of the community that pushed the limits of what a weapon can do so hard in the end. Because it's kind of like, let's say, pretend one person figured out the crafting was a thing, and they didn't post it, they didn't let it go viral. He just absolutely hauled, and suddenly on Raid Report, he has a solo of every single thing. No evidence of how. Raid Report says he does it, and he also has world records. But it's also like, in the end, Bungie sees that, and they say, oh man, someone did it, so it must mean it's possible, so we're gonna turn it up. It's why Dungeons went from, you could one phase the final boss in Shattered Throne with a average linear fusion rifle, to, guess what? You take the same linear fusion rifle, light it up, put a few mods on it, surge it out. Guess what? You take it into Ghosts of the Deep. Guess what? You're still going to take 20 rotations to kill that final boss. But I feel like I'm repeating myself, so I'm just going to let this kind of go ahead.
Obviously, they can't spoil everything. Everybody thinks that we play the entire expansion. No, we don't. It's always just a piece of a piece and some dabbling.
And that is true. Every bit I saw about Edge of Fate was always like first mission and not really farther.
The direction they want to take their game. You don't really know if it's going to do well or not. You hope it hits, but you don't know if it's going to hit. What do you do in those situations, guys? Let me ask you, what do you do in those situations? About the only thing you can do, especially
as a creator as well, I can say perfectly as well. It's kind of a similar thing that every creator feels when they put out a video. Because as someone who's not exactly established, I'm not in a position where I'm like, I know people will watch my videos. I know somebody might. There might be a comment every now and again. But I never know if my video will pick up enough traction to have conversations back and forth. Multiple people replying to the same comment. An actual discussion. So, as a person, with that last video I put out, I put a lot of effort personally into it. It was like a whole weekend plus into Tuesday that it took for that video to actually come out. I know it's short in the perspective of like a Russian Badger video where he takes 4 months out of a year, but regardless, it took a lot of effort. And it's a scary thing, scheduling a video and knowing you put effort into it and not knowing how it's going to be viewed in the end. It could be a flop, it could be hated, it could be loved. You never officially know until it actually hits the public.
Given development timelines is that you can give small little feedback, like small little pieces of feedback, like the matter ball should do more damage. You should have more jumps in the teleportation. There should be biome changes, things like that. But fundamentally, do you look at the developer and say, I think your creative vision is ass, and I think this is absolutely
Personally, a few like tidbits on that. If they could just do any other fallen weapon that isn't a Scorch Cannon. I know it's not a Scorch Cannon, but they essentially just ripped the animation and they reskinned the Scorch Cannon and tweaked its mechanics. If we could get something other than a Scorch Cannon, or something other than a Laser Rock, or something other than a Vex Cranium for like artifact weaponry, that would improve my opinion about what they develop way more. Because I know it's Destiny, we've seen the same reload animations 1,000 times, we've seen the same reskin base auto rifle 1,000 times, but in the end, just something newer eventually. Some new things that you didn't expect would genuinely improve the sentiment in some cases.
Shite. Considering you haven't even seen all of it to begin with. Now you ask them why they think it's going to hit with their player base. Okay, so then you bring that up. Bungie, why do you think that this is going to hit with Destiny 2's player base? And they bring up the countless comments, whether it's been in their own streams or in other YouTube feeds or Twitter or wherever else, of breaking the mold. You see, you guys have been saying it for years, that the mold inside of Destiny has been the same thing, most notably this seasonal mold. Well, we can't deny the fact that this is different. Going into Kepler is going to be different, and it may be different in a very bad way, but it is different. Can't be mad at them for trying something new when they've been begging for new for 10 years. You want different? Here it is, GG. And look, again, when you're only shown 10% of something, it's hard to say, you know what I mean? You can only...
Indeed. You need info before you can actually get a grand opinion that is worth evaluating.
The good thing is that Edge of Fate and Kepler is not a 1-year expansion, right? I don't know if Renegade is going to be much, if it's going to be better. I also don't know if Kepler... Look, guys, we could get into Edge of Fate, and what if? Let's just play what if. What if we get into Kepler, and we're like, oh my god, this place is fucking awesome. These puzzles, they my jam, baby. This whole Metroidvania shit, I didn't even know I wanted it in my life, but it fucks. This Lodi guy, this guy fucks. I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I will say where we are hype-wise is much lower than where we were last year.
Most indeedy.
Into the Light, all I can say is make comparisons between Into the Light Pantheon versus Rite of the Nine. Into the Light Pantheon, way better.
Way better. Absolutely.
Same realm. That shit was so high leading up into Final Shape. Rite of the Nine has not captured that. Now, creatively, you know, these developers, they're in their position. That's what they do. This is what they do. They have a vision, and I'll just have to see if they're actually right. I didn't play Metrovania games. I don't even know. I've watched some YouTube videos on them. I don't even
Same.
know.
I don't
But
even know if
this
I've played
entire
something
time,
that fits that description.
YouTubers and streamers ruin Destiny. Well, let me just go ahead and just give you a little bit of feedback from me on this one. I have been to summits multiple times, and at some of those have been folks. Let me just say, it was the first time at Bungie. You know what I mean? And it was the first time talking to Bungie. And let me just say this, chat. You bitches cave so fast. You know that? Instantly cave. The moment you fucking walk into Bungie and see John 117, fucking cave. You guys coming there.
Cross, it's 117, not 117. Come on, man. You gotta get it right, man.
Act like you're gonna give the best of fucking feedback. Get the fuck out of here. Every single time. Every single time. Yo, act hard. And then, when you're actually in that shit,
Which I wouldn't be surprised if this is true. Is somebody that is not used to that scenario, as soon as I get told, no, this is how it is, and they'll just crumble.
Okay, I'm trying to give proper feedback, and I just got fucking deep throater over there.
Oh,
So
Jesus.
I think it would be lovely if we could all be in these meetings and all give proper feedback. That would be fantastic. And I know of a solution that could fix all of these problems, Bungie. Because to be quite honest with you, the summits and all that stuff, you know, it's nice to have hands-on time with Bungie.
The end, it's a
I believe
closed-door
the best
summit.
way Bungie can really cut through the crowd and find answers immediately is by doing what RuneScape has done for years. In-game polls. Make it happen, Bungie. You get a poll
Also that.
in-game that says,
That's
hey,
actually
we
a very
got
good
an annual
idea.
expansion coming up. What would you like? A subclass or supers added to existing subclass? Right then and there. Everyone can vote right there on the spot. You guys can click.
I think right now, if I had that, just as personal opinion, I think I'd want a new Darkness super for Strand. Well, not Strand, for Stasis, possibly. Just as a thought.
One or the other. I want a new subclass. No, I want old supers and more abilities added to Stasis or Strand. And the beautiful thing about this is now we can all make the fucked up decisions together. It won't just be
Indeed.
whoever the hell happens to be in Bungie's ear.
Now, the problem is we can't have Minecraft mob votes where suddenly out of nowhere the Phantom wasn't even in the running, but the Phantom won for its mob votes and that idea. We need to have a genuine tracker to see this is the community's opinion so far. And if it turns out that a lot of the community isn't actually with that vibe, and we can tell that Bungie is rigging it just like every single Guardian games possibly, we'll see what it actually means.
It's all of us together. RuneScape has done this for years, where they literally will ask people what they want for upcoming content drops. And it could be like a new skill, what the specific skill, what they would want. They would give them options of what the skill should be. I think it's fantastic. They get all the data right then and there, and it feels like...
Which, to Cross's point, Bungie knows polls because they've been doing it for ages every Halloween. There is community polls, actually even more as opposed to every Halloween. There's been the community polls for what armor is going to be chosen for this year's Festival of the Lost, and there's there's polls talking about a community-made weapon ornament that which one is going to go live into the game. There's been polls. Bungie's been doing them for ages. So combining my idea of like the interviewing 20,000 random people, have a This Week in Destiny post that says, by the way, we are showing you like 20,000 people asking for their genuine thoughts. And we're going to look through it and say, oh shit. Oh, son of a bitch. Subscription there. Accidental. I forgot I left that on. But aside from that, if there was legitimate, what's it called? Surveys that went out, 20,000 random Bungie accounts that had attached emails. And they put their genuine feedback, poll it, other different things. They can easily send out mass emails to everyone and say in their updates and say, hey, there was a poll that or a survey that went out. And of course, you would have the average creator that would also say in their tweet coverage, check your emails. If you want your voice to be heard, you can hear it.
The game is growing with you, and you are all making a conscious decision to grow the game. Would you care about in-game surveys? Like, we're doing a poll right now. 95% says
yes.
I
we
think
go.
That's the best way to do it. You know, if you really want to cut past what we want, dude, just get. But here's the other side of things. What if we get some shitty stuff in the game? Well, all right. Just know that the majority voted for it.
In the end, unfortunately, it's just like politics. Not everyone wanted the current president, but guess what? He's there. We'll have to deal with it for the next however long. Guess what? You're going to have to deal with it regardless.
Majority should be happy. But Destiny does not have a mailing system. Well, we have the kiosk
emails.
The special kiosk in town. Look, all I'm saying, it should just pop up right here in the chat, guys. Maybe even on the portal. Bungie's making the portal on the portal.
They say
Bungie.
every now and again, make sure your emails are connected to your accounts for a reason.
And just make it simple and allow people to vote on one or the other, and not just outfits. Dude, please, for the love, like even the outfits, it's like we get an email. It needs to be something that's actually real, man.
That tag at the bottom. Can we start, brother?
Process here, moving the game the direction we wanted to go, and you know, getting the option to choose, even if it's stuff that's like a year or two out. That would resonate so well with everyone in this community. To me, this seems like something they could definitely do, guys. I dream.
Poll on how long it actually takes to play.
And I get a little pop-up that says we're planning some features for the next annual expansion. Would you like clan-owned housing, or would you like, you know, something equivalent to that, whatever that may be?
Space battles, 100%. Our ships have guns. We never use them.
This is so easy. It's so much easier than Bungie throwing darts at the dartboard trying to figure out what the Destiny 2 community wants. This is so much easier than bringing folks like me or anyone else in to ask them.
And I feel bad for whoever he brought into his fire team just for him to have this spiel.
And I promise you, this game will become so much better.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.
Yes, I 100% do agree with that last bit. I do, once again, to repeat, to answer the question of have streamers ruin Destiny 2, it doesn't go just to streamers. It does have to go with everyone who's heard and everyone who's shown, like in terms of messing with the sandbox, it also, like this, I should probably have specified this earlier. In terms of changing the sandbox, that right goes to those who have proven what is capable of low-man teams, and that's why they've messed up the sandboxes. But in terms of development, I genuinely think either what Aztecross said of polls in-game, or otherwise polls and surveys that was just sent out to a random allotment, which, to say allotment, I mean a lot, minimum like 10,000 people in the community, send out emails to connected Bungie accounts with active emails. People that have genuinely, in the past, taken or put in votes for like the community armors and the community, crap. I just was talking about it. Community weapon ornaments. If there is people that have shown they actually give feedback, allow them to also give feedback. Because as much as Cross can say, they had random schlubs just off of Twitter or Reddit that showed up at these Bungie panels, we have no idea who they are. Because in the end, they didn't report back what they found. They just gave their info, or didn't, based on his reaction, and just said they just crumbled. Either way, I do think genuinely we just need to have more voices. Obviously, they say they're always listening, but I do think there has to be more voices that are direct lines to Bungie or somebody else in development. As aside from adding the Destiny 2 team, hoping that it gets caught by DMG, and hoping he does more than just say, oh, that sucks, so sorry, and actually put something forward. Like, thinking of how many times I've seen people talk about cheaters that have been active for the last 4 months, but the team doesn't do anything about it. But I digress. That is going to be the end, of course, the end of the video. I don't have much more to add aside from that. Of course, credit to Aztecross Gaming and his full video of Have Streamers Ruin Destiny 2. And with that, that is where I'm going to leave it. This is the first time I'm doing this kind of content. I personally don't think it might do well. It's run a bit long, officially, reaching almost 40 minutes. But I do hope that this could be understood as genuine, creative, or constructive criticism. And I hope I don't sound like a maniac when I'm saying a lot of this stuff. But with that, my name is the Mad Scorpion, and I will see you in the next video.